is the future of travel? Given the pandemic last year, we want to know what travel is going to be like, how's it going to change, what's going to happen? Well, I have my theories, and that's what I'm going to be talking about today. So without further ado, let's dive in. My industry is travel. I've been traveling for the past decade. I've made a career out of it. I've traveled to every single country in the world. And I've also picked up a lot of things and nuances about travel over the years, specifically within the past year. I think things have changed a lot. There is a huge halt to travel. And I have my theories as to how travel will change in the future, not only this year, but from here on out, really. Here are a few things that I think are going to change in the travel industry and what the future of travel actually is going to be. Staying local. So road trips have always been a big thing in America, not necessarily other countries, but I think more people will see the value in local and meaningful trips as opposed to feeling the need to have to fly somewhere far away and have less time to spend in the actual place due to the amount of fly time that they have, as well as costs. So I think local travel will become a bigger thing than it already is in other countries in addition to America. Next is maximizing our dollar. For those of us millennials, 2020 was a year when we were really getting into the adult work life. For me at least, I was 3 years into my business flourishing only for the pandemic to hit and everything come to a halt. I never recognized the importance of saving or investing until 2020, and I think many millennials and Gen Zs watching will want to travel more economically and be more cautious with how they spend their money, more than we ever have before. Next is sanitization and health. I've always been a hypochondriac when it comes to travel and staying safe and healthy, and I know the amount of germs out there touching all these surfaces. It's so easy to get sick while traveling. So of course, it's important to stay as healthy as possible and take those precautions. But I think after last year, things have changed and people want to be a little bit more cautious when it comes to their health and sanitization and safety when it comes to traveling. I think what's going to change is more people will be obviously cautious, but so will airlines and buses and train stations. I think the whole transportation industry is going to be changing for the better with regards to health and safety. And we're going to also take more precautions with carrying masks and sanitizer and sanitization products and being more aware and careful so that we can avoid getting sick when we travel. I think a lot of us are going to be worried that travel might come to a halt again with another pandemic. And so to try and stay healthy and avoid that from happening again, we'll be more cautious about health and safety and specifically sanitization when we're traveling on planes and in airports and just being more cautious. More upgrades. Travelers who opt for miles rewards programs, I think will be pleasantly surprised with the amount of comfort and first class upgrades due to airlines taking more precautions. This might be more of a 2021 short-term thing, but nonetheless, it's something that I've experienced in my travels last year, and I think it will probably continue into the future before travel really picks back up again, which is kind of cool. So if you don't have any air miles, I'd highly recommend picking an airline that you love and getting into air miles, because you could be pleasantly surprised with the amount of complimentary upgrades that you could get while traveling until travel picks back up again. Small businesses will experience a shift in their economies, I think, and also unique allure. In 2020, there was a huge focus on small businesses, something that wasn't necessarily highlighted as much in previous years. Both Black-owned businesses, I think, will take a front seat and people will be more apt to want to purchase from them, to have that unique allure. And I think that's just something that was kind of instilled in 2020, and I think will be the future of travel, is supporting small businesses and their economies. And this is otherwise known as responsible travel. People like to talk about sustainable travel, but responsible travel is just as important, because responsible travel also encompasses supporting local communities and supporting their culture, and also taking that knowledge and sharing it with those back home to break the stigma and be more open-minded and educate others on different cultures around the world. Discounts in travel and countries willing to offer incentives to bring back travel. I think travelers will be more open-minded and willing to accept the uncertainties of what is travel. Also, in addition, I think travelers will want to be more inclusive and travel solo or to places further away from people. And this is just what I've gathered based on reading articles and listening to people and watching videos based on what they want out of travel post-pandemic. And in my opinion, bye-bye travel agents. I'm sorry, but I think travelers will find comfort in creating their own safe and healthy travel lifestyle as opposed to leaving it in the hands of travel agents. This has been a long time coming with the increase in influencers and bloggers, and I think a lot of travelers are finding the places that they want to travel to, specifically places that adhere to their needs based on following people in the industry who make a living out of promoting these places and visiting them and shelling them out and telling us all about them. So I think while travel agents plan your trip, I think people are going to find more value in planning their own trip that is more catered to their needs and to where they want to go based on Pinterest and influencers and bloggers that are more experts in those specific places where they want to go. Sure, it does help to have travel agents, but it's also an additional cost when it comes to costs and spending. I think they will want to limit their costs and spending more when it comes to travel, and that would involve not necessarily hiring travel agents in order to plan their trip. Next is sustainability. I think sustainability will take a big front seat, and I think it is the future of travel. Specifically thinking that Gen Zs are going to be the ones traveling a lot more than the boomers and the millennials, and even with millennials traveling, I think we've become so awake to climate change and sustainable, responsible travel. So Gen Zs are going to be the ones working really hard to incorporate more sustainable and regenerative travel for future generations. And millennials, I think, started that trend, and they're going to create more of a regenerative travel experience overall as the years go on. Luxury hotels are also becoming more sustainable. People tend to gravitate more towards regenerative and sustainable tours. There's kind of more of a stigma when it comes to flying so much. I know I've gotten a lot of hate for that, even though I would offset my travels through planting trees and buying carbon offset emission programs. But when it comes to travel, airlines will become more sustainable in certain ways. I've always wanted to develop a sustainable airline, like an energy efficient airline, but I hope that there will be more sustainability also with air travel and bus travel and that sort of thing in countries all around the world. But I think sustainable travel, not just sustainable, but regenerative travel is the future of travel. Safer travel through tech. Okay, so we've talked about like sanitization and obviously perhaps vaccines and just being safer and more healthy traveling. But tech, I think, is going to be the future of travel. When it comes to airports already, for those of you who have Clear, maybe you know, I have Clear, so whenever I go and when I've traveled for work during the pandemic, I would go through Clear. I wouldn't have to touch a thing. I wouldn't have to go near anyone. And the Clear machine would just essentially recognize me through eye recognition. And just the future of travel is going to be, AI, surveillance, geotech, sensors, apps, and digital contact tracing. And that's going to make travel safer for everyone, essentially. So the future of travel, I think there's no doubt in saying that it's going to be in tech. And lastly, I think for the future of travel, there will be a big decrease in business travel because everyone started realizing the value of holding virtual meetings in 2020. I think a lot of companies find that that's kind of effective. It saves costs for them having to have offices for their staff to come into and extra costs associated with that. So I think it saves money for the company, but for the employees, it's a better work-life balance, at least in my personal opinion. Now, granted, I work from home, but my friends who work at companies who've kind of been forced to work from home in 2020, they've had a better kind of work-life balance. Now, granted, things have been meshed a little bit together. Day turns into night, weeks turns into like, what day is it? But I think there will be a decrease in business travel because doing virtual meetings via Zoom and working from home has been more apparent and kind of more efficient in a lot of ways. I see that as being the future of travel as well, and something that might change, and that already has changed, honestly. A lot of my speaking engagements have turned virtual, and while it's not ideal to have virtual speaking engagements and conferences, I don't know, I think people are kind of liking it. So we'll see where this heads, but this is just my presumption. All right, so that is it for this video. What do you guys think will be the future of travel? Curious to know, let us know in the comments below. And if you like this video, please be sure to like it and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Hit the notification bell to get notified when I post new videos. And otherwise, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye. Someday I will leave you when I've had enough of your beauty.